Sean Ochal is from Pennsylvania and loves to live a clean, open, and sober life. I love that description of how he chooses to live. He's well acquainted with truth-telling and talking about his own story. He loves to be outdoors in nature and is an avid practitioner of yoga and is self-professed jokester looking for the next great pun. So let's see if we get that in Sean's story. Let's welcome Sean to the stage.
Yep, okay, it's good height. Awesome. How are you guys? Still with me? All right, good. Awesome. So, I actually forgot what I was going to talk about. Just kidding. There's a lot of things about myself that I really like, but there's one thing in particular that is pretty high on the top of my list. My beard. See, I like it not only for the way that it makes me look, of course, hopefully good, but also for the way that it makes me feel, right? So every time I look at it, it reminds me of everything that I went through in trying to understand who I really was and finally being able to come to terms with who that was and to act on it. So who was I? Well, I was me. But for 27 years of my life, I lived as a woman. When I was born, my parents welcomed me into the world as a girl. They gave me a girl's name and they dressed me in girl's clothes, and they presented me to everyone as their daughter. But I had a really hard time trying to understand why that didn't really fit with me. I remember thinking really a lot about how my life would be like if I was a boy. So I didn't think anything of it, actually. I thought that everyone thought that way. I was like, oh, well, maybe all girls do this, whatever. I'm just going to let it go. But that didn't really matter, so I just kind of said to my parents, hey, can I just wear my hair short and wear boys' clothes? And when my sister and I would play house, I asked her, hey, can I be the dad or the son or the brother? Because I just felt more comfortable in that role. And luckily, everyone complied, which was awesome. And definitely what was cool was when I went out in public and people would notice that I looked more like a tomboy, and so they would refer to me as one, and I was like, yeah, sweet. Because I really wanted them to see me that way, so it kind of worked out. But once puberty came, things changed a little bit. And I realized that not everybody felt the way that I did. And I noticed that as I was maturing, all of the girls around me were getting really excited to become women, and I was not. I was actually getting pretty devastated at watching my boyish figure kind of fade away, and I couldn't do anything about it. So while that was going on, which was not too big of a deal, just a little bump in the road, I started to realize that there was something else different about me, that I was attracted to girls. And things got a little bit even more complicated when I realized that I wanted to date them, but as a boy, not as a girl. I was pretty terrified that if anybody found out, they would think I was weird or disgusting or creepy or crazy even. So I didn't say anything. I just felt it was better to keep it to myself. And so, in order to kind of help myself deal with that, I looked for something that would help me escape. And I found that in alcohol. I started drinking alcohol a lot back then, and I've been dealing with having a problem with it since then, pretty much. Taylor mentioned that I'm sober, but, which will be 2 years next month, which is awesome. Thank you. But it really helped me be able back then to forget about how I was feeling and to escape, right? So I looked for all kinds of reasons to drink, and I made it a focus of my social life. And the more I drank, the more I became dependent on it. So when I got to college, one would think, oh, well, probably drink some more. But actually not really the case, because I started to meet new types of people, and I met a group of women who openly dated other women, and they made me feel less alone and less ashamed about how I was feeling. So that was really great. But ironically, at first, I pretended I didn't know them. I was like, I don't know you, because I didn't want other people to associate with me with them, because I was so ashamed of it. But once I kind of got over that and got to know them better, they were really instrumental in helping me realize that I was not crazy, I was not weird or disgusting. I was just me, and it was okay. Although I was able to open up to them about dating and that kind of stuff, I was not feeling comfortable enough to open up to them about my body issues. Because from what I observed, they seemed completely comfortable in theirs. So I was like, I'm not going to bring it up. Nobody's going to understand me anyway, so this is just not going to happen. What did I do after that? I forgot. It was a long time ago. It was the 90s. The 90s were awesome. I miss the 90s. I'm stalling. That's all right. Yep. Oh yeah, the best part of my story. After college, after I kept hiding this, I started to get really sick. And I was having a lot of migraines, and it kind of all just hit me out of nowhere. I was tired all the time, and I had back pain that was so severe that it's weird, but I couldn't sit or lay down. I could only stand to make it feel better. I had trouble talking, and my speech would often become slurred, and my words would get garbled. What else? Oh, I even blacked out sometimes, and this happened once while I was driving. And I woke up at the stop sign listening to Maroon 5, and I could not listen to them ever again because of this. And that's all I remember was like one lyric, and then boom, I was there, and I said, what? But anyway, besides having those types of issues, I also started to develop sores inside of my mouth, and a lymph node grew to the size of a golf ball in my neck. And then, as if it couldn't get any worse, the muscles in my arms and legs started to grow really weak, and I had trouble moving them, and it was really a struggle to walk at times. So this landed me in and out of the hospital. On and off, yeah. And then I thought, what if I was sick like this for the rest of my life? Maybe I could even die like this. It was really scary, and I wasn't sure how to feel about it. And unfortunately, nobody could diagnose me. I had all these tests done, and I saw a ton of doctors, and they were just guessing, right? So they would look at some of my symptoms, and they would go, well, maybe you have this, or maybe you have that. So some of their ideas were, well, maybe you are having mini strokes, which would explain why you're, not remembering things, or it wouldn't explain a host of the other issues, but some of them. Or maybe you were having early signs of multiple sclerosis. But I had all those tests done, and everything came back negative, so I was like, nope, try again. Then I had a round of blood work, and one of the doctors said, well, it looks like you have a mild case of mononucleosis, and also a touch of viral meningitis. And I was like, well, that's concrete. Thanks. They had a really hard time trying to figure it out. And then as that was all going on, I remember this because I actually just talked to my mom about it earlier today. She wasn't there because she was like, I don't remember this. But a doctor came into my hospital room. She was not there. She was by my side the whole time, though. She was wonderful. A neurologist came in, and he said to me, have you considered that all of your problems just might be in your head? And I was like, no, didn't think of that. Can you fix me now? But no, he, at first I was offended because I said to myself, well, maybe he's thinking I'm faking it, and that's what he meant by that. But years later, I figured out that is not what he meant. He was trying to tell me that maybe I had something on my mind, which I did, and I was refusing to acknowledge it and accept it, and it was manifesting itself physically through all that stress, and that's what was causing me to be so sick. Mind blown. Wish I figured it out a long time earlier. However, I did end up making a recovery. I struggled for a little bit after I had had that interaction with him. But when I became well enough, my parents coincidentally said, "Hey, we're going to move from our hometown in Pennsylvania to Florida." And I was like, "Cool, I'm coming." Because I wanted to start over. I wanted to put everything behind me and get a fresh start. But, as we all know from the beginnings of my story, it was not easy for me to just start over, and so I found myself kind of just drinking a lot again, and I neglected my mental and physical well-being terribly. I had no idea what self-care was. I do yoga now, but I would make fun of it back then. And the only deep breathing that I knew how to do came in the form of drags off my cigarettes that I was smoking. And then, dun dun dun, I did something that, well, I was on this destructive path, so this makes sense now, but I did something that I wasn't proud of, but that I couldn't help. I fell really hard in love with a woman who was already in a long-term and long-distance committed relationship with a man. We became friends at first and talked a lot and got really close. It just kind of happened out of nowhere. And then we started to date because we became attracted to each other. And this went on for about a year. And I knew about him, but he didn't know about me. And the reason that I stuck around this long with her was because that I was really holding out hope that someday she would choose me over him. But she didn't. And I was left heartbroken when he unexpectedly proposed to her and she accepted. But right before all of that happened, not exactly before, but a little bit before, we were having this nice, really heartfelt conversation about our lives and love and the future and our plans, which I was hoping to hear I was in them. Didn't happen, but it was really genuine and sincere. And I remember that, I don't remember exactly how we led up to it, and I'm not really sure how she figured it out, you know? Looking back on it, I'm like, how did she know to ask me this? Were there any signs that she was going to ask me this question, the reason she asked me this? And what she asked me was, do you want to be a man? And I remember pausing for what seemed to like an eternity, and I was like, in my head, I'm like, if I say how I really feel out loud and tell her yes, it's going to be out there now, and I'm not going to be able to take it back. And I freaked out, but she was just so there. She was so present, and she meant what she was really asking, and I felt safe and loved and vulnerable and all those good things. And so with tears in my eyes, I just kind of looked at her and I said, yeah, I do. And it was there now. And there was no taking it back. And you know what? I didn't want to take it back. I had reached a point where I was done. I was glad she asked me it, because I'd been running for so long that I couldn't do it anymore. It was too much. It's too much on my mind, body, and soul. So, at that time, everything changed, right? I was like, okay, I need to take action this time. So, I realized that if I didn't do something, I would never live comfortably in my body, and that I don't think I would be able to find inner peace if I was chasing something that I never really tried to act on, if it was just a dream or a fantasy. I wanted to see if it could become a reality. I didn't think it was important for me to live the rest of my life pretending I was somebody else and that maybe it would just go away, right? So I went for it, clearly. And it's really exciting because after I realized that I needed to do something about it, I said to myself, wow, I'm going to take the next stage or the next step in this journey, and it's going to be a complete and total transformation. And you know what? I was really ready to say goodbye to the strong, courageous, resilient, awesome woman who had gotten me this far, and say hello to the strong, determined more confident young man that would hopefully get me the rest of the way.